I gave him 5 years. 5 years of shelter, food, and love, all under my roof. All because I believed in family. When Jason, my only son, lost his job, I said, "Come home, son. Bring your wife. Bring the kids. You'll be safe here." That was after my wife passed. The house had gotten too quiet. I thought their laughter might fill the silence. I thought I was helping. I was wrong. At first, they were grateful, or so it seemed. Then came the sighs, the eye rolls, the closed doors, the private conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Until one morning, Jason stood in the kitchen. Didn't look me in the eye. He cleared his throat and said, "Dad, we've been talking. We think you'd be more comfortable somewhere else. You don't belong here anymore." I froze. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood all too well. They weren't asking. They were pushing me out of my own house. My name was still on the deed, but none of that mattered. They thought I was old, alone, weak, easy to discard. And maybe I was, until that moment. Because that morning, I didn't argue, I didn't beg, I just smiled and started planning. His name is Robert Miller, age 64, a retired math teacher from Des Moines, Iowa. He spent 4 decades in a classroom, chalk on his hands, patience in his voice, discipline in his bones. His students respected him. Some feared him. Most came back years later just to say thank you. He never made a fortune, but he built a life, a modest house with a white fence, a garden that bloomed every spring, and beside him always was Sarah, his wife, his partner in everything, the only person who could make him laugh on a bad day. But cancer doesn't care how good you are. Sarah passed 3 years ago. Since then, the house has felt too big, too quiet. The swing set in the backyard stopped creaking. The kitchen stopped smelling like apple pie. Robert stopped humming when he made coffee. He filled the silence with podcasts and crosswords, but nothing filled the chair across from his. Still, he kept the house clean. He paid the bills. He stayed active. He was doing okay. Until one late November afternoon, his phone rang. It was his son. And with that one call, Robert's quiet life was no longer his own. Robert answered the call. It was Jason, his only son. His voice was rushed, tense. "Dad, we need a place to stay, just for a little while, just until things get better." Robert didn't hesitate. He never would. Because that house, though filled with memories, felt empty. Sarah had been gone for 3 years. They met in college, married young. Built their life one paycheck, one compromise, one summer road trip at a time. She painted the kitchen yellow, insisted on wildflowers in the backyard, wrote sticky notes with jokes on the bathroom mirror. When she got sick, Robert stopped teaching. He sat beside her for 11 months reading, cooking, holding her hand. Until one morning, she didn't wake up. Since then, the house had been quiet. Too quiet. No voice calling from the hallway, no coffee mug in the sink, no second toothbrush on the counter. Robert kept her favorite chair by the window. Untouched. He couldn't move it. Couldn't throw away the scent of her perfume still clinging to the cushion. So when Jason called, asking to come home, Robert said yes. Not because he needed company, but because he missed family. He missed feeling useful. He thought maybe it would help. Maybe the laughter of children would soften the silence. He didn't know he was inviting in something else entirely. Jason moved back in that same weekend. His wife, Brittany, followed a day later, 2 kids in tow. Liam, age 6, Ava, 3. Boxes stacked by the hallway. Lego pieces under the couch by Tuesday. The house was full again. Full of footsteps, laughter, cereal bowls left in the sink. Robert didn't mind. He liked the noise, he liked the chaos. He gave Jason and Brittany the master bedroom. Moved himself into the guest room, smaller but cozy. He cooked dinners, did the dishes, picked the kids up from daycare when needed. Jason was still looking for work. Brittany did freelance design on and off. Money was tight, so Robert paid the electric bill, and the internet, and the car insurance when it lapsed. At first, Jason thanked him. He called him Dad. Brittany smiled at dinner. The kids made drawings that said Grandpa is the best. Robert taped them on the fridge. It felt like family again. But something shifted quietly, almost invisibly. Gratitude turned into expectation. Thanks became silence. Then, silence became distance. Robert didn't notice at first. He just thought maybe they were tired. Maybe it was stress. Or maybe he was just in the way. Weeks turned into months. Months became years. 5 of them. Robert kept track. Not because he expected anything back, but because he was a math teacher. Old habits die hard. He had a little notebook. Nothing fancy, just lines and numbers. Groceries, $180 a week. Utilities, $230 monthly. Emergency dental for Liam, $600. He paid for Wi-Fi because the kids needed it for school. He replaced the dryer when it broke. He repaired the roof after a thunderstorm. No one offered to split the cost. No one asked how much it was. They just assumed Dad's got it. He always does. Brittany used his car more than he did. Jason borrowed his tools but never returned them. One time, Robert walked into the kitchen and heard Jason say, "We really need to remodel this old place." He said it like the house wasn't his father's, like it belonged to them already. Still, Robert smiled. Still, he cooked. Still, he paid. Because that's what fathers do, right? They give and give and give until there's nothing left, except the space people assume you'll keep filling. At first, it was little things. Doors that used to stay open started closing more often. Conversations in the living room would stop as soon as Robert walked in, then restart after he left. The kitchen, once filled with chatter, became quieter when he entered. No one looked up from their phones. One evening, he sat down at the dinner table only to realize there wasn't a plate set for him. "Oh, sorry. Dad," Jason mumbled, grabbing an extra plate from the cabinet like it was an afterthought. The living room, where he and Sarah had once danced on their 30th anniversary, was now taken over by Brittany's home office. Printer cords tangled on the floor. A whiteboard, covered in project notes, hung right where their wedding photo used to be. No one asked. No one said, "Is this okay?" Even the kids started calling his guest room Grandpa's Corner. Not his room, just a corner. And when Liam got in trouble one day, Jason said, "Well, what do you expect? He doesn't have enough space. We're packed in here because Dad won't downsize." Robert said nothing, just smiled gently. But that night he sat alone on the back porch long after the lights had gone off inside, wondering if this was still his home or just a place he was allowed to stay. Dinner used to be the one thing that brought everyone together. Robert cooked. Everyone gathered, talked, laughed. Then, one evening, he came home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, and found them already eating. No extra chair, no extra plate. No one looked surprised he wasn't there. "Oh," Brittany said, mouth half full. "I thought you were working on your puzzles upstairs." The next day, he noticed his coffee mug, the one Sarah gave him on their last anniversary, was no longer on the shelf. It was packed away in a cabinet behind boxes of kid snacks and protein powders. His books from the den had been moved to a cardboard box in the garage. No one told him why. No one even mentioned it. The fridge was now covered with the kids' school schedules, Jason's gym chart, Brittany's color-coded planner. The photo of Robert and Sarah wasn't there anymore. He found it later face down in a drawer under Liam's soccer socks. He said nothing, But inside, something quiet began to harden. Not anger, not yet. Just a slow, cold awareness that maybe they weren't forgetting him by accident. Maybe they were making space by erasing him. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary day where nothing feels out of place. Until it does. Jason stood in the kitchen, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the floor. Robert was at the table, sorting mail. Nothing urgent, just bills and coupons. "Dad," Jason began. He paused. Robert looked up, smiling. "Everything okay, son?" Jason cleared his throat. "Brittany and we've been talking." Robert nodded. "All right." Jason shifted his weight. Still didn't look up. "We just think maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere with people your age." Silence. Then, "You mean a nursing home?" Jason winced. No, not like that, just assisted living. Independent but with help nearby." Robert said nothing. He didn't blink. Jason kept going. "It's safer, more manageable. You'd have your own space." He meant well. Maybe not. But he never looked up. He never said, "Because we love you," or "We'll still visit." He said space. He said safer. He never said home. And in that moment, Robert understood. This wasn't concern. It was clearance. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind scrape past the windows. The hallway creaked. Footsteps moved downstairs. Voices. Muffled, but not far. Curious, Robert stepped quietly out of bed. He followed the sound, soft socks on cold wood. He paused beside the air vent. Old house, thin walls, and what he heard wasn't meant for him. Brittany's voice came first. Sharp, flat. Did he buy it? The whole "we care about you" thing? Jason laughed. He nodded. Didn't say much. He'll probably go along with it. Dad's always been trusting. Robert stood still, heart pounding. The kind of pounding that isn't from fear, but from betrayal. Then, Brittany. Again. "Once he's in the facility, we can finally talk to Zach about listing the house." Jason replied, "He'll never know. We'll say it's just temporary." Robert backed away from the vent, step by step, his face blank, his breath quiet, not from shock but clarity. They weren't worried about his safety. They were planning his removal like you plan a garage sale or a renovation. He didn't cry. He just stood in the hallway long enough to let the weight of their words settle into something sharp and irreversible. Robert wasn't one for suspicion, but he was one for patterns. Things that repeated. Words that didn't line up. Voices that changed when they thought no one was listening. 2 months ago, he'd installed a baby monitor near the staircase. Not to spy, just to listen for Liam's late-night coughing. But it picked up more than that. He found the recordings, scrolled back through time, clicked play. Jason's voice. "The assisted living place says they can take him by mid-month. Brittany perfect. And Zach said, we'll get at least $650 for the house, maybe $7. Split it 4 ways, we're finally out of this hole." Jason laughed. "Honestly, Dad won't even ask. He'll just go along with it, like always." Robert sat still, replaying it. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Each time the words stung less and cut deeper. He wrote the numbers in his notebook. Dates, names, plans. They were talking like he was gone. Already moved, already erased. And that's when something inside him clicked. He may have been 64, he may have been quiet, but he wasn't stupid. He'd taught high school for 40 years. He knew how to handle people who thought they were clever. Sunday morning. Pancakes sizzling. Cartoons blaring from the living room. Everything looked normal. Robert poured his coffee, stirred slowly. He didn't say much anymore. Jason walked-in phone to his ear. "Yeah, man," he said, laughing. "We're just waiting on Dad to move out. House'll be ours soon enough." Robert's hand froze mid-stir. His spoon clinked against the mug. Jason kept talking loud enough for the whole kitchen to hear. "It's basically inheritance anyway. We've been living here for years. Paid our dues." Paid their dues. Robert blinked. What dues? He paid the mortgage. He paid the bills. He gave them shelter, food, his space, his life. Jason turned around and saw him. Eyes widened just a flash. Then he smiled. "Morning, Dad." Robert smiled back, but something behind that smile had changed. Permanently. Jason finished the call, poured orange juice, sat down, acted like nothing had happened. Robert sat across from him, watched him, not as a father, but as a man who just realized his own blood was counting down the days until he became a memory, attached to a property deed. That afternoon, Robert took a walk, alone. He told Jason he needed air. Jason didn't ask where he was going, didn't care. He walked 6 blocks to a red brick building with a chipped gold plaque, Warren and Blake Attorneys at Law. He hadn't seen Gerald Warren in 10 years. Last time was for Sarah's will. But when Gerald opened the door and saw him, he smiled like no time had passed. "Robert, to what do I owe the honor?" They sat, talked. Robert didn't rant, didn't cry. He just laid it out fact by fact. Gerald listened carefully, then leaned back, hands folded. "You still own the house fully." Robert nodded. "Paid off 5 years ago. It's in my name only." Gerald's expression shifted. "Then you've got every right to do what you're thinking." Robert didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, watched a crow land on a wire. Still, patient. Then he turned back. "I don't want revenge," he said, "just peace." Gerald smiled. "Peace is good, but a little closure never hurts either." And just like that, the old man they tried to erase began rewriting the ending. That week, Robert did what they never expected. He moved in silence. No confrontations, no guilt trips, no shouting in the kitchen. Just action. He called a discreet real estate agent, someone Gerald recommended. Trusted, professional, discreet. The house went up for a private listing. No signs on the lawn, no online ads. Just one call to a serious buyer with cash. At night, Robert boxed his old photos, wrapped them in newspapers, labeled each box with Sarah's handwriting. He made sure they came with him. During the day, he visited a quiet retirement village on the outskirts of Denver. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cheap, but it was his. He signed the lease, paid in full. Told the staff he'd move in alone. No family helping, they asked. Robert smiled. No need. Back at the house, he started removing his name from the utilities, the Wi-Fi, the security system. He left everything else untouched, just as they wanted. But every drawer he cleaned was one step closer to vanishing on his own terms. No one noticed, no one asked. They thought they had time, but Robert was counting down faster than they were. Brittany was excited. They'd booked a 3-day beach trip, just the 4 of them. No stress, she said, no mess, just sand, sun, and cocktails. Jason nodded. "Dad'll be fine alone. He's got cereal and that old radio." They left on Friday morning. Didn't say goodbye. Robert stood by the upstairs window and watched their car pull out of the driveway. Slow, clean, like nothing had ever happened. He waited an hour, then called the mover. They came quietly, loaded his boxes, carefully. No neighbors noticed. By sunset, Robert stood in the empty living room. It echoed now. No toys, no clutter, no voices. Only stillness and the faint hum of victory. On the kitchen counter, he left a letter. Just 1 page. "Dear Jason and Brittany, you wanted space, so now you have it. The house was mine. Now it belongs to someone else. Don't worry, you won't need to split the inheritance. I took everything I needed. The rest wasn't mine anymore. I wish you well in whatever home you find next. Dad." He closed the door without looking back. They returned Sunday night, saw the empty rooms, found the letter, and for the first time, Jason understood what it felt like to be left behind. The moment Jason stepped inside, he froze. No TV, no shoes by the door, no smell of coffee. Just emptiness. "Dad." His voice echoed off the walls. "Dad." Still silence. Brittany walked in behind him, eyes wide mouth half open. "Oh my God." Jason ran upstairs, checked the bedroom, closet empty, bathroom spotless. He stormed into the kitchen and saw the letter. Read it twice. The words didn't change, but his heart rate did. He grabbed his phone, dialed. Beep, beep. Come on, pick up." Voicemail. "You've reached Robert Carter. I'm not available. Leave a message." Beep. "Dad. Dad. Hey, I don't know what this is. Just call me, okay? We can talk. We didn't mean, it was just temporary. We didn't want you to feel like this." He paused. "Please." He called again and again. Each time voicemail. By midnight, he sat on the living room floor, back against the cold wall. No furniture, no warmth, no reply. The man he thought would never leave finally did. Monday morning. No shouting, no cartoons, no slammed doors. Just sunlight, spilling gently through a clean window. Robert stirred his tea. Sat on the porch of his new apartment, quiet retirement village just outside Denver. Birds sang softly. The world felt peaceful. A nurse walked by. "Morning, Mr. Carter. Sleep well." He smiled, like a rock. He walked the gardens, read the newspaper in full. No rush, no background chaos. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was in the way. Lunch was chicken pot pie and real conversation with a kind woman named Margaret, who used to be a librarian. They talked about books. Sarah would have liked that. That night, he sat by the window with an old vinyl record spinning, the same one he and Sarah danced to on their 10th anniversary. And then it happened. That small twitch of the mouth, the lift in his cheeks. A quiet laugh at nothing at all. It wasn't a smile of revenge, not pride, not gloating, just relief. He didn't need to prove anything. He didn't need their apology. He had freedom, and that was enough. The calls eventually stopped. The texts slowed down. The guilt maybe came later, but by then Robert had let it go. He kept one photo on the nightstand. Jason at age 6 missing a tooth hugging his dad with both arms. That boy was still somewhere in there, but Robert knew it wasn't his job to go searching anymore. Some people call it revenge. Some say he taught them a lesson. But Robert he calls it boundaries. You can give, you can love, you can forgive. But when someone treats your kindness as weakness, you don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. He didn't slam doors, didn't scream, didn't curse them. He just walked away. And sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say. To those watching, maybe you're a Jason. Maybe you're a Robert. Maybe you're somewhere in between. Wherever you are, just remember, the quiet ones. They leave differently. But when they do, they don't come back. Robert didn't burn bridges. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't wish them harm. He just walked away. Some called it revenge. But to him it was liberation. You see, there's a limit to how many times someone can feel invisible in their own home. To how many dinners they can eat alone, surrounded by voices that never ask, "How was your day, Dad?" Robert had been patient. For years. He gave, he supported, he stayed quiet, until quiet was all he had left. So he chose peace. Not to hurt them, but to heal himself. And that's the truth people forget. Walking away isn't weakness. It's clarity. You don't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes your silence says everything. So if you've ever felt like Robert, pushed aside, taken for granted, unseen, just know you are not alone, and you are not powerless. It's okay to draw the line, to choose yourself, to reclaim your space with dignity, because even the quietest exit can echo the loudest. Maybe you're watching this and something inside you feels unsettled. Maybe you've been Robert, always giving, always forgiving until there's nothing left to give. Or maybe you've been Jason, too busy, too sure, thinking your parent would always be there, waiting. But time doesn't wait, and neither do people who finally learn their worth. So ask yourself, if someone you loved walked away tomorrow, what would you wish you had said? And if you're the one thinking of walking away, maybe it's not about revenge. Maybe it's about release. So what's your story? Have you ever been part of a goodbye that said more than 1,000 words? Drop your thoughts below. You never know, your story might be the one someone else needed to hear today. And if this moved you, there are more true stories like this in the Revenge Stories series. Because sometimes, the quietest voices leave the deepest echoes.